Hey everyone, happy to be back with you all. And Mr. Schwartz, or we're going to start calling him from now on, if you were on the call yesterday, um, Dick. And this is the closing session in our series. As we dreamed this up together, we thought, let's have an opening session. We brought in Valerie and Alanis and Van, and then let's have, a closing session. So today, it's the closing session. How are you doing today, Dick? How's your heart and being?
Well, I've been sick, and today I finally feel well, so
Oh,
that
good.
helps.
That's
I
good.
I was really inspired by Van's session, so
Yeah,
I'm still kind of riding that high.
yeah, yeah. Me too. One of the things that has happened, which we'll announce more later, is that Dick and I decided that we want to keep doing this. So the plan would be to take a little time off and then schedule a new series in November. And so if you have maybe some people or guests you would like us to invite, feel free to reach out to us at info@wisdom2conference.com. But we'll put together a similar program just because we are just really, really touched. And I think for those of you who got to watch the Van Jones interview yesterday, um, for me, Dick, one of the pieces was how touching it was when he talked about the different ways of activism
Mm.
after he had connected with that younger part that had never really been provided for or loved or supported. And once he could love and support that younger self, he's still very active, but he's active in a different way.
Mm.
And it seems like that's really kind of what we're trying to get to in this series is not that we're not activists or involved, but we're involved as much as possible as whole selves or whole integrated beings. And I wondered if you could say a little bit more about that.
Yeah, not only, was he able to connect with that little boy and heal him, but also help that boy and the protectors of that boy
Yeah,
trust trust himself to run things.
yeah,
And that is a big goal. It's both to help these wounded parts transform, but it's also to help people like him who are influencers and also working for the right causes
yeah,
to be more self-led so that their message can be heard. And the other thing I was really inspired by was how much he was able to get his parts that have such feelings about people like Trump and
yeah.
um, what's her name, Conway
Uh-huh.
and Kushner, to allow him to go to them with this common cause and
Yeah,
collaborate to release 25,000 prisoners.
yeah,
Um, and then the backlash he got from the left. It's just
yeah,
such a great example of self leadership.
yeah. And do you think what allows that self-leadership to happen? And I think most people somewhat understand when you talk about self-leadership, but maybe just a little on self-leadership, and then in your experience, uh, what's is it the protectors now trust the self to take over so they don't have to take sides? Is that the process?
Yeah, it's there are actually four goals of IFS.
Hmm.
The first, and this is where we start usually, is helping people get to know these protectors and honor them for their service, but ask them to separate enough that they can actually begin to learn what they're protecting and then heal what they protect, like the boy he was talking about,
Hmm.
so bullied in school. And by heal, I mean get that boy out of where he's stuck in the past
Right.
and help him what we call unburden, release all the humiliation and all the fear and so on that he carried so he can be sort of a happy little guy. And once that
Right.
happens, once that part of him is healed, then his protectors don't have to take the bait all the time from his opponents and take over. He mentioned running the bus,
Yeah.
and they can trust him to run the bus,
Yeah.
to drive the bus. And so then, when you can live like, well, that's the second goal, is helping these parts trust self-leadership, both in the inner world, but also in the outer world. Well, that's the fourth goal.
Yeah.
So, and then the third goal is to help the parts get to know each other and harmonize inside. So
Mhm.
they're all working together rather than be so polarized.
Yeah.
And then when all that can happen, you can be very self-led in the outside world, which he is really the embodiment of, from my point
Yeah.
of view.
Yeah.
And when you can lead from the outside world, as he demonstrates, yes, self has a lot of compassion, but people focus so much on the compassion. And I think too many spiritual traditions do this too, that they think that self is going to be kind of passive, or
Yeah.
isn't going to be forceful enough to create change. But it's not true, because there are the other C words like courage and confidence and clarity. So self can be extremely forceful,
Yeah.
and can, as he was talking about, stand up to injustice, but do it with compassion too. And
Yeah.
he was also demonstrating self leadership in the sense that he could sort of, when you really get self led, you have X ray vision, because you can see past your opponent's protectors and see the pain that drives them.
Yeah.
Not that you're not going to stand up to them, but you can do it from a different place than if your protector takes over, because your protector just objectifies people
Yeah.
and sees them as their protector. I
Yeah.
don't know if this is making sense, but
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think, like I work these days somewhat in the AI kind of world in terms of how that's all unfolding. And in any particular issue, there's different sides, right? There's a side that's like AI is going to destroy the world. We have to, give it guardrails. And then there's a side like AI is going to be the greatest thing ever. It's going to solve all of our problems and health problems. And so, and those are just different parts, right? They're different parts on an issue. And so it feels like in kind of activism or in social change, would you say that we want those parts to be able to hear each other's reality and see if there's a common way of working together and
exactly. And
how that
that's
might then shift? Go ahead, sorry.
exactly. And that's a direct parallel to what he's doing. So if you can do that inside, and you can listen to each side of the polarization and help them listen to each other, like you're saying, which is that third goal of IFS, then it's much easier to do it in the outside world. And that's what he's doing. Uh, he's bringing very polarized groups together who never interact with each other,
Mhm.
and having them sort of get to know each other and find their common ground
Yeah, around,
like the prisoner release program, or um, a lot of the green jobs program, all these programs that he's, you know, if you can find common ground and people's protectors can relax
yeah,
because it's a safe environment, then you have these self to self conversations that actually can be very productive.
yeah. And what helps that, like if I'm doing work in the AI world and there's two sides, what helps that sense of common ground? Is it just reminding people of what we all share, which is like a shared vision for humanity, or are
Yeah.
there other things that help those protectors?
As you know, I've been working with extensively with one side,
Yeah.
and when we can help people on that side get into self, they can see the potential benefit of AI,
Mm,
and they can say, and we just have to be sure it doesn't destroy the world, which it has the potential to.
for
But they
sure.
can say it from a place that the other side can probably hear, and the other side, can get so dominated by these parts that are worried if they don't bring it first, they're going to lose out.
Right.
But uh, they don't have access to self.
Yeah.
And to some degree, that's a problem. It's a real problem because it's pretty true. If they don't do it, somebody else is going to do it. So for them to actually have those parts relax, there has to be these self-to-self conversations with their competitors where they all come together and see this common issue
Yeah.
before it destroys us all. So anyway,
Yeah, that's beautiful. No, I appreciate that. Um, and so one of the things we talked about is possibly, Dick, you leading us in an exercise where we get to know some of these parts better, or our parts better. Is that something you're willing to do now, or we could also open it up to hear about other people, but what is your sense of what would be useful now?
I'm happy to do that. I know we also were thinking of doing another demo
Yeah,
if we
yeah.
had time. So there's a lot to do.
Yeah. Maybe we go for let's see if there's somebody who wants to do a demo, and then we'll go from there. How does that sound?
That's fine. And
I think Stephanie raised her
hopefully,
hand.
is that because she wants to do a demo or does she want to speak? Wants to do a demo. Okay.
Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, hi. Yeah, Richard, thank you so much for who you are and all you're doing to help us in our world. It couldn't be more important. And Soren, thank you. Thank you to you in this community. It's really beautiful.
Thanks for those kind words. And yeah, as Soren said, we've gotten so excited about this program that we want to do another one. And yeah, this is like a dream come true for me because, I've always had this ambition to bring IFS to larger systems, and you folks can really fulfill that. So I'm grateful to all of you.
Yeah, thank
So
you.
yeah, so did you have something in mind?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm a pediatrician, and I also want to thank you for IFS. It's helped me in my healing journey personally. Um, And through this journey, I've come across some heart-centered practices that have helped me and complement IFS to accelerate healing, thriving. And I've actually been able to re-regulate my nervous system and become liberated from my trauma. And I also realized that certain things are also, can still bring up some tendernesses. Right now, I'm pre-startup for a future organization and envision global movement, United Love and Humanities Olympics of the Heart, um, envisioning a future platform supporting synergy and love and action across the planet and accelerated co-creation of universal thriving with universal love, by starting with our very next choice, by choosing love and choosing love and choosing love. And on this path, I've had to be a whistleblower in the past. So about 11 years ago, I was noticing safety issues arise in the care to children and healthcare system and brought things up constructively, but found things to get worse and progress. And so I had to become a whistleblower. I faced reprisal. And inadvertently, without knowing it or consciously choosing it, I realized that inadvertently, I got a little bit quieter. I contracted a little bit. And I realized that I was getting a little bit more frustrated, a little bit more fearful, a little bit more irritated, a little bit more angry than I would wish to at times. And I realized at times I was getting angry at the anger and fearful at the fear and frustration at the frustration and irritation at the irritation. And so I started to realize that without knowing it or intending it. So when I looked back at some of the most painful moments in my life, I realized at the very moment of the deepest pain, things shifted from a sense of unconditional love to a sense of conditional love in a relationship. And at the same time, shifted from a sense of being on one team to all of a sudden feeling like it almost feels like we're in two separate teams now. And I also started to feel deeper into it. And I realized that anything that didn't feel like unconditional love actually felt like insecurity, fear, instability. And I kind of realized, wow, anything that doesn't feel like unconditional love actually feels like guaranteed suffering.
Mhm.
And if I have a choice between guaranteed suffering and unconditional love, I'm going to choose love, even if I don't know how. And that began this healing journey for me of choosing love and choosing love and choosing love. And I realized inadvertently that anytime a tenderness arose, when fear, frustration, irritation, sadness arose, I was kind of inadvertently putting it on a separate team,
Right.
pushing it. Like you talk about exiling, I was inadvertently closing my heart to it. I was inadvertently disconnecting from it. I was inadvertently putting it on a separate team. I was inadvertently withholding my love from it. So my
Okay.
healing has been reopening my heart to all of these parts, the exiles, stepping into self. And for me, I call it my universal self, and coming into compassion with these parts and loving them. And reopening my heart to them, coming back into connection with them, and also coming back into the one teamness with them. So through that and doing that over and over and over again, I've come to be able to recondition my nervous system, and I'm no longer getting more irritated and more frustrated and irritated at the irritation and frustration of the frustration. My buttons have been disappearing, like the buttons that people could push have been disappearing. So I just want to thank you for your processes, and these additional things and complement to them for me have helped to accelerate that healing. And I'm getting ready to introduce a new paradigm, love-informed healing and thriving, to complement trauma-informed healing and thriving. And there's a part of me that experienced that whistle blow
Mhm.
that's afraid to move forward with some of this.
Perfect. Yeah. So you ready?
Yes.
Great. So focus on that one and find it in your body, around your body.
Yeah, I feel it like in my heart and in my abdomen.
Okay. And how do you feel toward it as you notice it?
I'm just trying to connect deeper with it. I think I'm feeling a little bit of the vulnerability of exposure.
Okay. All right. So that's probably another part.
Mhm.
And ask that one if it's willing to let us take this risk or if it wants some airtime first.
Yeah, it's willing to.
All right. So let it know we get that there's a lot of uh, fear about being so vulnerable in this group. We can understand that. I can promise you, I won't be judging you. I'll just be admiring you for doing it. I suspect everybody else feels that way. And then returning to the original target part, the fear, reprisal, or the part that was so shaken by that. How do you feel toward it now?
Yeah, just so much love.
Let it
Tender
know. Yeah. Let it know and see how it reacts to your love for it.
love you so much.
Yeah. How's it reacting?
It's softening, but I see it like curled up in a ball, like
Okay.
under the desk that I
Yeah.
used to.
Okay. And how close are you to it in terms of feet away?
Just a few feet.
Good. So let it know we get how scared it is and curled up and just keep extending your love to it. It doesn't have to do anything, but just feel that coming from you.
Yeah, it's looking. She's looking up at me.
Looking up at you, that's great.
Yeah, she's
Just
feeling.
let her know, kind of let her know who you are and that you're there to help her. You're not a threat to her. You love her.
Yeah, thank you so much.
It's really great.
Yeah, now I'm with her, just hugging her, just holding
How-
her.
How's that for her?
Yeah, she likes it. She's just crying in my shoulder.
Okay, great. So let's just hang out with her that way until she really trusts that she's not alone anymore.
I'm here and I'm not going anywhere. I love you so
Right.
much.
It's perfect.
I honor you and I love you exactly as you are without anything to change.
That's really great. Does she seem to trust that now? All right, Stephanie, then ask her to show you where she might be stuck in the past with all this fear. And don't think, just wait and see what comes.
Yeah. I asked for help. I was working within the Indian Health Service and they sent somebody from the regional office to do a fact-finding process, but I came to learn that it ended up being that they were just trying to kind of dig up dirt. In the moment that I realized that, just an attempt to discredit, the moment that I realized that, like, I was just petrified.
Yeah. So is that where she's stuck in the past? Yeah, it's great. Just stay with her. Let her know it's really good to let you feel all this. Just stay with it. Let her know how scary that was and how betrayed you felt. That you're getting that.
Of course you're feeling this way, but you're so much.
And ask her if she does feel like you get how bad that was for her.
Yeah, she's also just so confused.
Yeah, that's
She
right.
thought
About what?
she thought that they were here to help.
Right. Yeah. It's a big betrayal. But she does feel like you're getting how bad it was, right? Okay, Stephanie. So I'd like you to go into that scene and be there with her in the way she needed somebody at the time. And just tell me when you're there with her. How are you being
I'm,
with her?
I'm holding her. I'm also just holding her like right behind me.
Good, good. And how's she reacting to you being with her?
Like she's a little bit scared, like looking around me, but she feels good that I'm standing up for her.
Yeah. So let her know you can protect her. And yeah, that you're there to protect her, and ask her what she'd like you to do back there for her or with her before we take her to a safe place.
wants me to extend love to them.
Okay, so
She
go ahead
wants
and
my heart.
say it again.
She wants me to extend love to them and compassion, and she wants me to speak from the heart.
So go ahead and do that for her.
Nothing's more important
Say it
than
again.
health. Nothing's more important than the health and the safety of our children
That's right.
and supporting
That's right.
or helping them. It doesn't matter what you do or don't say about me. I know who I am.
It's great.
I know the work that we're doing. And it's so vital that we all come together and support for the best health that can be provided.
It's really great.
Highest health, highest outcomes for all of our children and families, no matter what.
And what's it like for her? What's it like for her to watch you say those things to these people for her?
She's really glad, like she's feeling comfortable to just not just like kind of stand behind me, but like to stand like
Next to you.
she can still see, you know.
Yeah.
She's really comfortable.
That's great. So see if that allows her to feel ready to leave that time and place with you now and come somewhere she'd enjoy.
She wants to transform the systems.
She
Oh yeah.
wants to stay out there with you.
Yeah, not just there. She wants to transform the entire systems, all of them.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
How's that sound?
oh yeah, absolutely.
So
It's what she's here.
she wants to partner with you to do that.
Oh yeah, all my parts do.
All your parts do. Okay, so let's bring them all in. So they can share in this this vision. And they can see how you can lead this way. That you can
Yeah,
speak for them.
they're ready to help to transform all of our systems together with the world, to
That's great.
reprioritize general people health and safety and not dollars and cents.
That's really great.
Reprioritize people, profits.
So Stephanie, go back to her and see if with this she's ready to unload all the fear and pain that she's been carrying since that time.
She is, but she's also she just also sees like the state of the world.
Yeah. Yeah, but she'll be better able to help the world if she doesn't carry all this stuff.
Yeah, she wants to, and she wants to help.
So ask her where she carries that. In her body or on her body?
Her stomach, her heart, and her throat.
Okay. What would she like to give it all up to? Light, water, fire, wind, earth, anything else?
She wants to give it to the air. And she wants to see butterflies emerge from it.
Okay, good. So tell her, go ahead and do that. Out of her body and off her body. And give it to the air and the butterflies.
She wants to see all the energy used for intentional co-creation of the greatest good possible from all that's been and the highest potentials possible of all that could be.
That's
Supporting
right.
and universal love.
That's really great. So is it all out of her?
Almost.
Okay. No rush.
Yeah.
That's great. And tell her she can invite qualities she'd like to have into her body now. See what comes in.
Fearlessness.
Uh-huh. Great.
Unstoppability.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Just unshakable power of love.
That's right. So how's she doing now?
Clarity. Connection.
Hmm?
Just complete embodiment. Speaking from the heart. No.
That's great. So Stephanie, as you consider now doing your projects, how does it feel?
Exciting.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Just so proud of my parts.
Uh-huh. Me too. Yeah, let your parts know we're all proud of them and grateful to them. And come on back when you're ready. How do you feel?
Tender and empowered with love.
Well, you did a service to everybody because, we all have those scared parts, and it's just a great example of what we can do with them.
Yeah, thank you so much. Can't tell you how much I appreciate this.
Thank you. And Soren, do you want to say anything? I see Rick has raised his hand.
Yeah, I see Rick. Well, I guess the question I have, Stephanie, is do you mind if we talk about that process?
Sure. Yeah.
Is that okay? Yeah, I don't know if Rick has a question or comment, but we can bring him on board. But thank you. Thank you for that, Stephanie. And if you're okay, we can just open it up and see who else, what people noticed in themselves.
Sure. Yeah.
Rick, do you want to join us? I don't know if you wanted to have a separate session, Rick, or if you wanted to comment, but feel free to join in. Oh, you're muted. Let's see. Oh, try it again.
Okay, can you hear me?
Now we can, yeah.
Okay. Partially given to what we've just seen, a question to both Dr. Schwartz and perhaps to you, Soren. What do you think it is about this realm, given the gold that you're trying to return us to? What's the compulsion to stray from it? What causes us in this world to say, I'm going to at least take a vacation? Any thoughts on that? I know it's a big question, but any thoughts?
Well, a lot of it is trauma.
Self-led awareness. Is that, Rick, what you're
Yeah.
referring?
That inner child that, if that's the
Got
word.
it. Okay.
Why move away from it? What is it about this world that says, you better keep that at bay, at least for a while?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So, this is a rugged individualist culture. So there's a lot of messages about when you get hurt to just get over it and don't show any of that vulnerability. And we're prey animals, and prey animals in nature know that if they ever show vulnerability, the predators are going to get them. So there's a natural inclination to not do that. And the problem with that is that when you do that, you wind up exiling these parts that are so precious that you're talking about. And also there are belief systems like Stephanie was talking about, choose love, which also has the impact of exiling those parts that aren't so loving. And so there's a lot of what I call cultural legacy burdens that contribute to the exiling of the gold you're talking about, and also contribute to these protectors running our lives so that we don't have access to self. And so, again, a lot of it's trauma, a lot of it's bad parenting, a lot of it's bullying, like we heard about from Van, and so on, especially when you're young.
And is there a way to fight that? I guess IFS then is a way of like turning towards, you had used the expression the other day about the U-turn.
Yeah.
I think it's about this, and then there's a looking that is actually about me. Is that part of the process, Dick? Is what we think is external is often internal?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the goals. We have initiatives in education and so on to try and bring IFS to kids so that they know when they get bullied to not exile the part that got so hurt, but to go and do what Stephanie just did, which is to embrace it and love it and help it unburden in the moment. And if people can do that, then they don't accumulate all these burdens that keep them from access to self and impede their ability to do their activism. So that's one of the big goals, is to make this more of a cultural meme that rather than sort of the counter to the rugged individualist message, go to the pain instead of locking it up.
You had said once, Dick, in a conversation that sometimes the hardest people to work with are like the kind of the people who see themselves on the side of the good. Like, I'm not racist, they're racist. I'm not a bigot, they're a bigot. I'm not judgmental, that they're the activist that has that strong stance often is the hardest one, because they don't see the ways that they also might be holding some of these qualities, right? They project it outwards. And it feels like, how does one begin to see that inside them with a certain level of appreciation and care versus just keeping that at bay, right? Because it's so easy for me to see like, oh, they're the ones who are the problems. I'm the non-racist, they're the racist. And I think what you're sometimes saying is like, no, actually that all exists in you. There's the person who loves, there's the person who hates, there's the person who, all of it.
There's a lot of, and I was very heartened by what Van said about this, that there's a lot of beliefs on the left that wind up exiling parts too. So, Soren, you said yesterday that you have a conservative part and you have a liberal part. And, if you were really into the progressive movement, you would exile that conservative part and pretend it didn't exist. or you would do that with the part that carries racism or something like that.
Yeah.
And when you exile any part, it's just going to work under behind the scenes to have influence, and you'll wind up doing things unconsciously. And so the goal again is to go to these parts that are burdened like that and help them unburden rather than lock them away. So
Yeah.
and people whose sense of worth is really dependent on that being
Yeah.
right and righteous. It's very hard for them to separate from that part, because the fear is if they don't have that telling them how right they are, then they're going to feel the worthlessness that drives it.
Right. Yeah. And I guess in one sense, like we have a part that loves and a part that hates, a part that cares, a part that doesn't care. And one part is like, oh, those all are just parts of us, right? Those are all like parts that we need to embrace. But at the same time, there seems to be a leaning towards love and compassion, but not as a way of excluding the parts that hate. Is that my understanding?
Yeah, well, it's going to the parts that hate and helping them unburden so that they transform. It's not, this isn't a model that just says, like too often from my point of view, mindfulness says, just be present to what is and be accepting of it.
Mhm.
Well, this isn't a model. This doesn't say be accepting of the part that hates everybody.
Mhm.
It's designed to go to that part and help it transform.
Mhm.
But to do that, you're going to have to work with the part it protects so
Right.
that it's freed up. It doesn't have to protect that way. And once it unburdens and transforms, you'd be amazed. These protectors are often
Yeah.
wanting to be the opposite of what they've been doing. Like now
Right.
it wants to go out and help you love people.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Marilyn, I see there's a few more hands raised. Let's see.
Yeah, okay. I finally got the unmute. Dr.
Uh-huh.
Schwartz or Dick, thank you for everything. I want to just do a summary of my takeaway from this program and see if I'm understanding your system. Full disclosure, I've never read your books, but I've been exposed to seminars and discussions you've had describing the IFS system. I recognize parts of me, but I value the whole of me. So I don't want to suppress or lock away any parts of me. And what I'm taking from my understanding of self is that as long as I can get in touch with self as a overall manager and sort of moderating and managing the parts. I love all of my parts. They've all served me well. And remember, Van Jones was talking about that little boy with his courage. And I was a person who put in the comment section, don't you still want to call upon that little boy's courage in today's world? So if you can identify, I mean, I've got, and I don't buy the whole thing about, it sounds like shadow work and all that. Oh, there's a part of me that's a hater. No, there's a part of me that recognizes hate is an option. But when I stick true to my values, I choose love over hate. So as a whole human being, you can be this way or that way, and we make choices. So is really kind of like the summary to take away is as long as we can get in touch with that why self, we can manage the parts and hopefully live a better life and be more effective in our activism.
I would say sort of. I don't use the word manage from self. So self becomes a good inner parent rather than a manager, or a good what psychology calls attachment figure, or a good internal leader. And a good leader isn't just managing, it's actually doing what Stephanie just did, which is to go with love to these parts, not to manage them, but to help them feel connected and feel a part of something bigger. And then yes, they'll transform and they'll now you have access to their qualities. Like you're right, as Van stays with his little boy, he has more access to that little boy's courage, and so on and so on. So that's one of the big problems with this exiling process, that we lose access to all the qualities, some of our best qualities,
Mhm.
just simply because they got hurt. And now we don't want to be around them. So for them, it's insult to injury. The injury was the trauma, and the insult is we're abandoning them just because they got hurt. So that's the project, is to round them all up and bring them back home and have them trust self as the leader.
Well, that was great further explanation for my understanding. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And that self is always accessible, would you say, Dick? It's
Yeah.
always, it's like the sun that always shines. It's like the ever present, would you say?
Yeah, that's sort of the miracle of this, that it is right there, just beneath the surface. So if we can convince these protectors to open just even a little space, self will pop out. So in contrast to many spiritual traditions that know about self, they have words for it, you don't have to meditate 20 years to get access to it. All you need to do is ask these, especially these protective parts, to open a little space inside, and
Yeah.
it's just right there.
Beautiful. Thank you. Natalie.
Hi, right on that theme, and I'm eager to hear what Stephanie has to say. I was going to ask this question of her too, but I've witnessed so many people doing these parts work, and so thank you for these sessions. It's really helpful to see what it's really about. And I'm scared to try to do it on my own. I feel like I will need a provider. The bottom line is, all the talk therapy over the years, I hit a dead end because my intellect drives it, and it's kind of run the show, and a lot of my heart space is numbed out over the years from the emotional, immature parenting that I grew up with. So what is a starting place for me? I am experimenting with psychedelics, so that's certainly one way, because it can in some ways bypass the intellect, but I'm guessing it's a protector part, and I don't know how to authentically, like if you were asking me the questions, my intellect would be answering. I want
That's
to
right.
hear the voices of the parts.
That's right. And you're not alone. I mean, that's really true with many, many people, particularly people that have been in other forms of therapy, where that intellectual part is recruited to answer the questions and so on. So if I were working with you, that would be the part we'd start with. And I would say, Natalie, focus on that part. Naturally, you find it in your head. How do you feel toward it? And a lot of people say, well, it's me. I don't feel toward it. It's just me, because they're so identified with it. And then I have to say, well, I know it's a part of you, but it's just a part of you. And we can actually get to know it. And then as you do get to know it, the question, what's it afraid would happen if it didn't keep you in your head all the time? And in answering that, we would learn how it's trying to protect you. And we would honor it for that protective attempt, but we would also negotiate with it to see if it'd be willing to relax back, so that we could get to know other parts of you. And if it's willing, it would. It isn't like, but I would have to be very convincing that it's safe, and that I'm a safe person to do it with, for it to give us the space to do that. Does that make sense?
Oops. Gonna
Like,
mute now.
as I asked that question of what's it afraid would happen if it didn't keep you in your head, did you get an answer?
A little bit. Yeah, I think I performed academically, intellectually to try to achieve love.
Yeah, exactly. So we can honor it for that, and let it know that there are some situations where it doesn't have to do that, and that it can trust you more. So anyway, thanks for
you.
asking the question.
It seems that, Dick, that the times where we've had some hardship or trauma or hurt, parts emerge to say, I'm going to make sure this one event does never happens again.
Ever again, it's their
Never
motto.
again. I don't care if you suffer in all these other ways, but you're not going to suffer in this particular way, right? You're not going to get abandoned again. You're not going to get bullied. And so this whole world gets created to make sure this one situation happens. And that's a very, very well-meaning part.
Totally.
And could you talk a little bit about the kindness that's needed or the thankfulness that's needed, even though it feels like that part now is like the problem?
Yeah, the part screwing up your life, but it doesn't know that it doesn't have to do that anymore. So
Right.
if I were to continue working with Natalie, I would have her ask the intellectual part how old it thought she was.
Yeah.
It's likely she'd get a single digit answer.
Yeah.
And that's usually the age at which this part jumped into that role of being the big protector. And it's still living back there. And it hasn't caught up with the fact it doesn't have to protect like it used to. So it's really important to get that at that age, the part was really necessary. It was really needed. It had to protect her that way.
Yeah.
So we can honor it for that. It saved her.
Yeah.
And she's much older now, and it doesn't need to keep doing that job.
Yeah.
And most of the time, these parts are shocked to learn that.
Mhm,
And,
mhm.
and they're totally relieved to learn that.
Yeah. Thanks.
So
I see Christina, you also raised your hand. We just have a few minutes, but I wanted to bring you in.
Thank you. Hi. Thanks so much for everything, Dick. I really appreciate you. I just may have missed this, but can you just explain? Because it sounds to me a lot like shadow, like the shadow when you talk about exiled parts. And I just resonated with you with what you said, Soren, around, okay, I'm never gonna have that again. And I can really resonate with that. Hence this overachieving part of me so that I never have to witness or feel abandoned. So overachieving. So I've looked at that as a shadow. Can you just contrast that or explain that to me, the difference?
yeah, I mean, Jung had a lot of this years ago. He just didn't organize it very well. So what he called the shadow is less what I'm calling exiles, because what I call exiles are these vulnerable young parts that got hurt so bad. What he called the shadow are more what I call protectors in exile. So they're parts that are protectors that we exiled because they didn't fit in our families or our culture. And so they're in the shadows, but they have a lot of influence unconsciously. And so I think that's what he was calling the shadow. And we work with them. We go and actively bring them in too.
Thank you. It does seem, Dick, that sometimes it's interesting that, like, particularly in certain spiritual circles, the holiest community, when I grew up in West Texas, like the preacher's sons and daughters were always the wildest. Like they were the wildest. And you look at certain like spiritual communities, everybody looks happy and smiling and loving, but there's this underneath it, there's all this other stuff, right? That eventually comes out and you realize, oh, the guru was sleeping with all these people or taking money or something. And it feels I'm surmising that there was all this stuff that just was never allowed, right?
Yeah.
All these desires, all these like things. And so it just comes out in this weird way. And I'm curious if you have thoughts on how, as a society, we can begin to name some of these things that are underneath the awareness and that the identity is built on, so that we don't have that other process happening underneath that then ends up creating weird shit in the world.
Yeah, I mean, Jung took a stab at it. And, I think my goal is for IFS to become a cultural meme so that everybody knows there are no bad parts, that you don't have to exile, that, the whole original sin belief system that does exile so many parts is bullshit. And that self is what Christ was really talking about. That everybody is good and that all parts are good too. All parts have self in them. So if that could become common knowledge, then there would be so much less exiling.
Yeah.
If instead you think of these parts as these either irrational belief systems or evil belief systems, then you're going to exile them. That's all that's all you can do with that kind of stuff. So a lot of it has to do with a big paradigm shift that I think we're heading toward the brink of.
Yeah. Beautiful. I think that's a beautiful way to end. I just feel such a joy to have this, I don't know, 5-part series, I guess we did together, Dick, because that world that you just mentioned, particularly where young people are able to name and see and have a language for the different parts of them that might get aroused or triggered or appear, and they don't have to shut that down and pretend and play and like deny, but they feel welcome to kind of see a multiplicity of experiences. To me, that's just maybe the number one thing if we were going to cultivate any quality, or the society is going to support inequality. And I get scared because it feels sometimes like, in some ways, IFS and practices and psychedelics, a lot of stuff is rising, but it also kind of feels like these strong footholds of division and righteousness are also rising. And what I most appreciate about your work is it has both an inner dimension, but it also has a social dimension. Like, it's not just about, oh, I'm a better, more whole person. It's like, no, we're creating a whole better society as well. Like, both of them dance together.
Right.
And so I think, to me, if we can do more of this, or whatever expressions we can do in the world to kind of foster that, feels like the work that needs to happen.
No, I totally agree. I mean, I'm very much into the parallels. And if you take a country, you can see there are lots of exiles. Like in the United States, there are lots of economic exiles. There are lots of exiles based on race and based on patriarchy and so on. And the more exiles any system has, the more extreme the protectors are going to be. And so we do have very extreme politics that are very polarized. And it's a total parallel to inner systems that have lots and lots of exiles, and they're going to have polarized protectors that are quite extreme. And there's not going to be a lot of access to self at either level. So yeah, that's for our next series.
Great, we'll work on that. So let's everybody unmute themselves, and we can say blessings and goodbyes and thank yous, and languages are welcome, and we'll let you know when that new series comes, what we're looking at in November.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Really powerful work.
Thank you so
Everybody.
much.
Really
Merci
resonates
beaucoup.
broadly.
Thank you so much.
Deborah,
So very much.
Soren, say
Thank you.
bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
So much.
Everybody, that was great.
I appreciate
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Thank you for the gift. This love gift.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.